Breaking Brown fam, what's going on today? Get your libations together, get whatever you need for the show. We're gonna have some conversations like we always do. Do a little housekeeping first though. If you are new to the Breaking Brown family, do something for me and hit that bell. Just hit the bell. Tag the bell so that you get notifications when we come on, so that you know what's up, what's going on, everybody, what's going on, Clark, what's going on, Rose, what's going on, Keith. Just hit that bell for me. Also, everybody, take a moment and hit the like button. That's how, YouTube knows it's a good video. Share it around. Do all that good stuff. I'd appreciate it. And, that's one thing you can do to help that doesn't cost anything. Hitting that like button does not cost anything. And it just helps out in terms of algorithm and all that good stuff. So, it's appreciated. Also, Breaking Brown family, if you could, please share it on your page. Please, if you're watching and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the page. Please take care of that. As you all know, you can go to, you can subscribe at breakingbrown.com. You can donatebrown.com. You can also, please go to subscribetobrown.com. Subscribetobrown.com. That's free. Add your name to my mailing list, so that I can just have it on file in case I need to have it, in case something goes, channels disappear. Okay, so I'll have it and I'll have access to the Breaking Brown family. I would appreciate it. Also, please, if you feel so inclined, the newsletter is I will put it in the box. I will put it in the description. It's $2. It's $2 a month. I send out a newsletter on Sunday, every Sunday, with news you might have missed that's important to the American Black descendant of slave community. So please do that as well. And, let's get started. So, I don't know if you all weren't here last week. If you missed the last show, I want to just address the last show in the context that I'm going to use to have the discussion in this show. Okay? So, the last show we had this we had this conversation, and there was a guy that called in, and it was something very interesting. And I want to talk about what the guy said, and I want to talk about how some of the reaction to what he said is problematic. So he called in, and he was kind of talking like there's got to be something that we can do in terms of doing for ourselves. And, I asked him at one point, I asked him what, and he talked about college, I believe. Then he started talking about, working collar. So he was switching back and forth. And I kind of poked fun at him first, asked, are you kind of Harry Potter? I mean, what is the deal here? And then I got on him, and he hung up. And I had a few people in my inbox, because I read my email. I might not get to them all, but I read them all, who were infuriated that I was disrespectful to the guy who called in. Now, I'm going to tie this all into timing. I'm going to tie this into what we're going to talk about in the show is not only timing, but understanding complexity. I want to tie this into what has to happen for this community to go forward. And why somebody said, we're almost at 50K subs. That's wonderful, and I appreciate that. But if we were doing something that was non-complex, we would probably be at 200 right now. Or if I just intermixed some stuff in here that had nothing to do with politics. We have a hair day, or we have a day where we just talk about when people cheat on people or something like that. Then that would, but since I refuse to do that, we grow very slowly. And there's something that says something about the community. But let's just stay with this guy. Let's just stay with him for 1 second. What I realized, and I want to thank the people who were critical, because what I realized was this: there are a lot of people who want to see, I want good politics, Yvette. I want the same politics as you. I want politics. I don't know what's wrong with the do for self. I don't know why people don't read the data. I don't understand. Do you understand, Yvette? Because I don't understand. That's just awful. But then when I hold somebody to account for it, well, you were too mean. You see, here's part of the problem. As we peel back these layers, as we transition from Politics 101 to Politics 102, everybody wants to do good politics. Everybody wants to have good black politics. But nobody wants to put in the work required. And nobody wants to have the confrontations required. And nobody wants to be adversarial when it's necessary to be adversarial to have the kind of politics that we need. Nobody wants to exclude anybody. Everybody wants to say, well, everybody has a right to their opinion. They don't. If you don't have an informed opinion, you don't have a right to your opinion, and you have no right to share your opinion with me. Now, it would be different if he called in and said, well, I reviewed the data, but I read it differently, and I want you to listen to my perspective. Fine. Or I have a different set of data that you may not have seen. I'm going to read that data to you, and then you can decide whether or not you agree with my take. Fine. Or I have a take. It's not necessarily based on data as much. It's anchored in data, but I just want to. I think that there's a group including the data we can do something else with. Fine. All of that, any of that is absolutely okay. What you can't do though is call into the show or interact with me or you or anybody else, and it's apparent to me that you haven't read the information. It's apparent to me that you haven't even engaged the studies. It's apparent to me that you haven't done the work. You don't get to be a part of this community without doing the work, and you should be castigated, and you should be throttled, and you should be embarrassed. I don't know what I'm going to do with all of you hothouse flowers, because you don't want to do the work. So when I take that, I'm going to transition that, because I don't want you to think that this is just one person. It's not only the unwillingness to do the work, which is part of it, but it's an inability to be nimble. Let me give you an example. This YouTube comment, I read the YouTube comments, and this YouTube comment showed up, and I just want you to just read it with me. Because we talked about the estate tax, and this YouTube comment showed up, and the YouTube comment says, what's the point of levying estate tax if we're trying to build generational wealth? I don't understand why we think giving the state that crippled us more power is a good idea. But A, the road to hell and whatnot. Anyway, best solution is to get money out of politics completely. I want you to just sit on that for 1 second. Now I'm about to move it out of the way. Okay, I'm about to put it in the corner. Listen to me, black people. Let me just point out some of the failures, because I see these comments all the time. Y'all see them. You go through the YouTube comments. You see them too. I'm not the only one that sees this, right? You see these comments. Let's just name the failures in this comment. Well, first of all, you want to talk to me about, well, we need to have the estate tax too. Understand that, and I'm going to mention this again throughout the episode, because we're talking about timing. We're going to talk about timing. We're going to talk about being nimble. We're going to talk about what's necessary for our politics. But understand one thing about this comment. We need the estate tax to build wealth. Well, what do you think the white capital does while you're building wealth? Understand, again, we're on the way to Jeff Bezos being a trillionaire of Amazon.com. So what you would really call wealth, while you're building what you think or what might be wealth, he has everything. We never had, we were in an era, like, listen, we only have, 535, but we have 535 billionaires. Now we're going to trillionaire level. You have to understand what it means to be going to trillionaire level. That means that they have everything. They have all the mechanisms to shut you out. So while you're keeping this estate tax open and saying that, yeah, I want to keep it open because I might need it, they're using it to ensure that you never gonna get anything from it anyway. They're using it to lock the gate, and you saying, I'm going to leave it there in case I need it. Now, here's where flexibility comes in. If you were a flexible thinker, what you would have said was this. You would have said, I think the person's name is, the commenter's name is Lazy Eye. Lazy Eye, if you could see clearly, what you would have said is that, listen, I think there should be a carve-out, a specific policy carve-out for American black descendants of slaves in terms of the estate tax. I think as any reparations, as part of any reparations bill, that DOS should be able to go untaxed. Or they should have this portion of their money untaxed. First 500,000 or whatever. They should have that first million, whatever the case. They should have this specific amount untaxed. You can't just allow this for everybody. See, part of the problem, Breaking Brown fam, part of the problem is that we're living in a world right now. Please hear me. We're living in a world that requires nimbleness. I used to watch football. I don't anymore. But you ever, I haven't watched it in years now, but you ever watch, those of you who watch football, you ever watch the nimbleness of a wide receiver stay inbounds? Like, work to stay inbounds so they can make the catch count. You ever see that? The kind of athletic nimbleness? We need that kind of nimbleness politically, in terms of our tribe, in terms of our understanding of politics, in terms of our understanding of taxes and what taxes mean. But instead, we're flat-footed. So we are a group of flat-footed people, and what we need during this era is nimbleness. So what do you do with that? What do I do with that? What do we do with that? How can we do that? How can we build when we need that? See, what this person doesn't understand is that in order to get reparations, what you're basically saying in that comment is, I don't want reparations. How many people understand that that comment means I don't want or need reparations? You know how it says that? When you say there can't be an estate tax, or when you say you're in favor of lower tax, you don't understand. In order to ever get any kind of reparations, you need transformational policy. You have to have a policy that's snatching money from rich people in terms of high taxes to have the kind of redistribution necessary for reparations. So when you say something like that, what you're really saying, and you don't understand what you're really saying is that I'm not in favor of reparations. And you don't even know it. You don't even know it, because they tricked you into loving rich people so much that you don't even understand that you are not in favor. Everything you stand for in terms of your imagination and imagining yourself in the position of a rich person stands against the politics of where you are right now. Let me just say that one more time. Everything that you say you believe or that you project, you keep projecting what you would want if you were rich. That projection that you're using is an impediment to the politics that you need right now. So what do? So what does that mean? So what is the consequence? The consequence is to develop an understanding. Like, I understand that we haven't dealt, I understand what's going on, Rich. Thank you. I understand that we have not dealt as we should have dealt with inheritance. I understand that we have not defined things. I understand what the capacity for those things. When you don't have wealth, you don't figure out how to deal with it. But we have to start dealing with those things. Because let me give you one more example. I have a friend. Talking to the friend got $20,000 in inheritance from her father. You got $20K from daddy. Wonderful. You got $20K from your daddy. Most people don't get any inheritance. I mean, when one parent passes. So grandma passed. Then this is a descendant of slave. This is American Black DOS. This is my friend. Got $20,000 when grandma passed. Grandma told daddy, hey, I want each of your kids. Grandma had $60,000 as an American Black DOS. I want all three of your kids to have 20, 20, and 20. Give each one of your kids, I want my grandkids to have $20,000. 20, 20, and 20. My friend, who has 2 kids, gave the money back to the daddy. And was basically like, I don't need it. I don't need the money. See, this is where nimbleness comes in. This is where nimbleness comes in, black people. Let me say, this is where counting comes in. For some reason, we don't have the ability to count. See, my friend is one of those unicorns, earn 6 figures, right? So you're saying to yourself, I don't need it because I earn 6 figures. Your father's retired and he's fine. Worked a white collar job, but I don't need it. But you have 2 kids. You split that 10 and 10 and put into account for your kids. You don't get, listen, parents out there, let me tell you something. You don't get to say what you don't need or give money away when you have kids. And money inheritance flows down. Money flows down. You don't get to give money to get money and then send it back up. That's not your right. And I'm going to tell you something. Your kids have every right to be angry with you, every right to be upset with you if they grow older and find out you gave that 20 back because it wasn't yours to give away. These are things, these are concepts. All of these situations, from people I know to this person in the comments, these are things that require a level of nimbleness, a level of understanding what it means. What inheritance means, the kind of money you need. Now 10 ain't even enough. You don't even got enough. It's not nearly enough, but it's something. It's something. But instead of, and see, you get, and I'm going to say, I'm not trying to be mean, I'm not trying to be hateful, I'm not trying to be abusive, but you gave it to somebody whose life is for the most part over. Like you're almost, you're like 40 or whatever, but you gave it to somebody almost 70. But your kids have a life. So these are, see, the way you see things, you have to see things in terms of what your kids need in this life, not, well, I love my daddy. No, you have a responsibility. But that requires a degree of nimbleness. And so that's kind of what I want to get into. I want to get, I was talking to, I was talking to our friend of the show, Alexander, and I use an example that I'm going to use here. I said, what I see sometimes, like when I see the Breaking Brown family in the comments, I see a group of people who, for the most part, we have trolls, but for the most part, I see people who get it, right? There's a level of understanding amongst the Breaking Brown community. But when you see people like come into the contents and when you see a lot of the criticism, what you see is people who not only don't get it, but it's almost like you're driving, right? It's almost like you're driving on a straight road, but you got to get off road. There are roads that are dirt roads. There are roads that are gravel roads. There are roads that are high and hilly that go over mountains. There are roads that go through deserts. And you have to know how to ride a bicycle. You got to know how to ride a four-wheel. You got to know how to drive a Ferrari. You got to know how to drive a tank. You got to know how to do all this and do all this and all these different terrains. And it's almost like there are too many people in the group who can only do straight road. I'm on the highway's going straight. I'm in a sedan, and that's all I can do. So when you start maneuvering a little bit to the right, to the left, going, they can't do that. They can't go left, can't go right, no. Can't go low, no. Can't go up, no. Can't go hill, no. Can't go valley, no. I can't go hill, I can't go valley, I can't go nowhere. But we're in a complex society that requires us to go hill, valley, all of that. That's what we are. So the question becomes, what do we do about that? What do we do about being in a complex society that requires complex exchange and requires us to understand complex exchange and engage in complex exchange when the people we're around can only stay on the highway and can only do the simple and most immediate? So I'll give you. So like if you tell somebody, say, well, what does this mean in terms of wealth? Most of the people who are talking about wealth don't even understand what it means and how to maintain it or what to do with it if they had it. So what do you mean, Yvette? Well, let me just say this. We have the life in America. See, let me just pull up something for you, because this is why a lot of people, and I'm sure at some point I have been guilty of this as well. But what happens is a lot of people, one of the things that we like to do is like just look at America as if America is every other country in the world, and it's not. America has shifted dramatically. Even when you look at look at this chart. This is just like, let me bring this up for you. This is wages. Wages are not yet weighing on corporate profit margins, of course. Look at those two lines. Look at the profit margin and look at labor share. Labor share has been going down. That's not anything new. That's not anything that we have not seen. But see, that's very different when you say and I say and all of us say, well, we need to have the same kind of system that Europe has. What we don't understand is that we don't have the same type of country. Like the shifts in America require a very, very different, require a very kind of different solution. And there's nothing you can really do about it except become active and engaged in how you deal with it. Now, I want to bring one other chart up when we talk about Europe, and I just want you to kind of let that sink in. Like, look at this chart, and I'll just bring it big and then let it scroll down. But if you see the top, this is top 1%, okay? Then this is the top 1% selected indicators of the distribution of household net wealth. And you see the top 1%, but if I'm going to scroll down, you see all these countries. Now I want you to look at the numbers to the right. Look at that top 1% all the way to the right. Look at that. Now I'm going to I want you to look at Australia, look at Korea, look at Denmark. Look at that number. Then you get all the way down to the bottom and you look at America, you see the biggest number, 42.5. We are living in a world where we have allowed them to have everything and to steal everything. And this is unlike any other country in the world. So I don't think we understand that the solution for America can't be a carbon copy of what happened or what we saw in any other country. It's not going to work. It requires a level of nimbleness. It absolutely requires a level of nimbleness that we just don't seem to be exhibiting right now. I'm not saying we can't. I'm just saying I don't see it right now. America's a very different creature. America's a very different monster. And that's going to take me into something else. You know, when you talk about, it's almost as if, right? See, like if you're into physics at all, check out Brian Greene, Fabric of the Cosmos. I read that, great book. But it's almost as if Einstein were here and he were having a conversation about relativity and gravity, and somebody walked up to you and said, I don't know about all that gravity stuff, but I believe if I jump off this building, I can slow down and kind of flap my wings a bit and I'll be good. If they said that to you, you would know that this person is crazed, and you would just try to probably get away from him and just like not be engaged and talk to him about your friend. He real throw it off. I don't know what's going on. You would do all of that. But see, when we talk about wealth, even though this is complete in terms of what happened and how it happened, when you talk about it, nobody wants to act like the caller is crazed. Or like the person in that YouTube. Everybody wants to say, well, everybody wants to turn back to Yvette and make Yvette the bad guy. Well, Yvette, you gotta let him have an opinion. That's like somebody talking about gravity and being like, well, if he believes he can fly, why would you interrupt him? Why would you talk to him about it? He's a person too. That's a problem. And that's a problem. It's not only a problem, like it's an American problem too, but it's a problem that we can't afford to have. And people who do that are bad for our politics. And that's something that we have to come to terms with. So what I want to come to terms with right now, in terms of the conversation that we're having, is exchange and timing, and talk about how they're related. I've talked about timing before, but I talked about timing in a very kind of specific way. I talked about how we were taken off the board when people were amassing wealth. I didn't talk about timing in a very nuanced way as it relates to citizenship. And I think that's the conversation that I need to have right now. Well, what do you mean? Well, okay. See, here's the problem. We're talking about exchange. We're talking about timing. We're talking about complexity. And we're talking about how we understand life. If your mother or father right now needs to go to the emergency room, right now, I gotta go to the emergency room. You bad off. You gotta go. You'll take them, and you'll understand the necessity of that based on immediacy. I understand what happens because of who we are and because of what we've gone through and because of what we've experienced. We as Black American DOS, we understand immediacy. I understand you gotta eat right now. You'll die if you don't eat. You need water. I understand you need a roof. I understand why Flint is bad because I understand water. But we don't understand the other side of it. We don't understand. First of all, a lot of us don't understand how we're manipulated because of immediacy. Because people understand that immediacy, right? And they'll tie us in a bind because of immediacy. But then if I talk about, hey, let's talk about how when you got to the hospital, you didn't have any health care. Let's talk about the politics that we need to do in a complex America to make that work. Then you don't want to talk. Or then you don't understand how to have a conversation with that person about that. But that's the thing you need to fix it. You need a complex politics. You need a political exchange. But you don't understand that kind of theoretical maneuvering. You only understand immediacy because we're built to understand immediacy. That's what happens when you're on this bottom survival level. Here's the problem. We're on the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. But in order to get out of it, we have to think from up there. That's quite a conundrum. That's quite a pickle to be in. But we are at the survival level, and that's what we're thinking and operating from. But in order to get out of survival level, we have to think from this actualized level, and that's a problem. And they built us this way, and that's a problem. And we have to figure out how to fix that problem because somebody will do that to you too. You'll have a brother who's in jail and keeps going back to jail and he ain't trying to. I'm just gonna live how I live. But then everybody will call you. Well, you gotta go get him out. Don't you gotta go get him out? He's your brother. Wait a minute. You want me to respond to this immediacy, but when I try to get this family to understand what has to be done to move as a community. To end mass incarceration, nobody wants to get involved in that. You can't think like that, but you understand that I gotta go bail him out, and you think I got the money for it. See, remember this: Stacey Abrams is running for governor of Georgia. Now, do y'all remember when this came out? I think I put it up a while ago. I can't recall, but. $200,000 in debt. So let me explain that to you. Let me explain something about how we think in terms of immediacy and why we talk about boomers and we give boomers a lot of grief. But one of the things we don't talk about is why boomers misunderstand their lives and our lives and why their lives look so good and millennials and some Gen X's and some Gen Z's lives don't look so good. Part of what, if I recall, Stacey Abrams said she spent money on to go in debt. She spent money on her one of her parents or both medical expenses. Here's the problem. I don't know what Stacey Abrams made, but if she wasn't earning around $300 or $400 a year, you didn't have money to do that. And this is what goes back into complex thinking, complex understanding, and being able to count. Not because you're mean, but because we don't count our debt. Right? And so what people will do is maneuver in a way that makes us think, well, you went to college. You gotta have you went to Yale, you don't have money to pay your daddy's medical bill, you're a Yale lawyer. And so because you have income, but you still have this debt. Because you have income, you're supposed to pay that bill. But you don't have income, you don't have money if you have that debt sitting on your books. You have that debt on your books. You have probably 200,000, you have a bunch of debt. You don't have it. And see, the thing is, boomers have never had to experience us say, I went to college, I graduated, but I ain't got it. I got debt on top of debt. And you know why I got debt? I got debt because you ain't got it. I got debt because nobody went to the school and paid for anything. I'm not saying I have animosity. I'm saying I don't got it. See, this is an era of complex exchange. In your politics, in your life. See, that makes up, like, you're not doing it for any type of animosity. That's not what you're doing. You're telling the truth. You really ain't got it. And it also, hopefully, will cause the person, too, to try to think about why they ain't got it. Why did they have to pay for their school? You went through 4 years of all that stuff? Another problem that we have, I'm not trying to get on a tangent, but we got too many people who kind of devalue that. So on one hand, you got her doing that. On the other hand, you got the Chris Rock joke. Well, you went to college, but what? So understand the complexity, regardless of whether you agree or disagree. Understand the complexity of the conversation I'm having. You have to understand. You have to understand that you can't be. I told you, inheritance flows down. The money flows down. Wealth flows down. You cannot be your parents' inheritance. You can't do it. You don't got it. It ain't about how you feel. You don't have it. I don't care what college you went to. I don't care. You don't have it. Unless you LeBron, you don't have it. If you an NFL or NBA star, please don't comment. I understand you got it. But America is cost now. America's all cost. And we're living fractional citizenship. What do you mean by fractional citizenship? It means that we don't have the cost to be American. Understand that this thing that Stacey Abrams talks about, I remember, how many of y'all used to watch Soul Food? I used to watch Soul Food. Remember the series Soul Food? And remember Terry was the attorney? And everybody was on Terry to pay everything because she was the attorney. Well, you're the big attorney. Nobody, I wish somebody would go and remake that show and we would have Terry put her books on the table. I want Terry to show all the debt she has. I want her to show the cost of living in that apartment that the house that she's living in. I want you to, but she don't get to do that. She don't get to do that. But her sister who works in a salon, who's probably putting money in pocket, right? Because she's not filing when people pay cash. She's not reporting all that to the IRS. She got not to go to college and not have to deal with 4 years of all that stuff and everything and going. She got to not deal with any of that. She got to just live her life. But nobody wants to say that. And then the other sister was a stay-at-home mom. Nah, if you need money, you got to work. I ain't got it. That's the problem. See, you have to have the complex understanding. Having that complex understanding means you got to be able to count. We never got to hear Terry really talk about her student loans. We never really got to hear Terry talk about this is how much my rent is. We never really got to hear Terry talk about how much time she spent at the law firm and how she couldn't take care of everybody. So if you get a chance, go back and look at that. When I think back on that show, I think it's a microcosm for what is happening now in terms of our ability to think complexly. Think in terms of having complex thoughts. You don't even do it in terms of Uber, right? We've had the conversation about Uber before. Many times on this show. And I'm not downing anybody who works for Uber. Like, for what? Like, we might all end up driving for Uber because the world is going to a very desperate place. I'm not downing anybody. Everybody got to do what they got to do to eat. But understand that if you got $20 for an Uber ride, you didn't really get $20. What Uber is doing is, first of all, they're putting the risk on you, the risk of driving somebody who might be a little thrown off, the risk of having an accident. You get to carry the risk of that driver. So that driver doesn't have to risk anything. Right? I mean, the rider, the person who they pick up. Like if I call a Lyft or Uber right now, I'm not risking my license or whatever. I'm not risking my car. The risk is all on you. So first of all, you carry that risk. That's what you're doing. The second thing that you're doing, in addition to carrying the risk, the second thing that you're doing is that they're delaying the cost. So you're not really making $20, but the cost on your car, the cost you got to pay back in taxes, the cost, when we talk about wear and tear, all of that stuff, there are additional costs. But Uber just says, listen, We're going to give you the money now, the cost of later. You have to be complex enough to understand that I got to put most of this money away for the cost that will come later. That is the kind of complex understanding that we have to have right now. And because we don't have that complex understanding, what we have is fractional citizenship. Now, what do I mean when I say, well, wait, what are you talking about? We talk about fractional citizenship. I'm talking about we're in the richest country in the world and we don't have the wealth to access it. The richest country in the world, but we don't have the wealth to access the wealth of the country. So everything wonderful about being American, we don't have the wealth to access. I put this chart up all the time and I'll put it up again right now, just so we see, just so we're clear. Bottom 50% of black household worth less than $1. Let's just be clear. I want you to look at that chart and be clear, because people are, I just don't agree. This isn't the thing about whether or not you agree. Your agreement is not necessary for you to fall off of it. Your agreement is not necessary. This is not about that. And there are some areas where we've made a little bit of headway, right? So what are you talking about, Yvette? Well, there was a time, let me see if I can find this report. Because there was a time where everybody was benefiting from Obamacare. Oh, here it is. But black people, right? Okay, but then there was a little bit of a shift in terms of there were some of us who began to benefit from Obamacare. Well, what are you saying, Yvette? Well, I appreciate it. I do. But when I talk about accessing American citizenship, what I'm talking about, see, listen, Obamacare will get you to see your primary care physician. Obamacare will take care of you in the hospital emergency room, right? That's on the back of whatever card you got. But first of all, there's a cost to it. That's why it's, when you look at that, the uninsured dropped by a third. That's why it's a third and not everybody, right? Because my Obamacare cost me a few $100 a month. The second part of that is this: if you need a surgeon, nobody really talks about. If you need a surgeon or a good doctor or something from the Mayo Clinic, you gotta pay cash. You don't go to the Mayo Clinic and be like, well, let me give you my insurance card, in terms of like, or when you want a surgeon who's on top of their game, which is what you really need. That's why people say America has the best health care. America really does have the best health care if you got money. So what you have is that America has all of this wonderful stuff to offer. But the people who built it, the people whose ancestors are slaves, don't have the money to access it. So you live in America, but you don't have the money to access it. Well, how else do you mean, Yvette? We don't even, it's bigger than not having the money. I saw this story, and I thought I'd put it up. There was a woman, she's trying to be the first black woman to visit every country. And you know how they have all these things now, black people traveling, travel noir, whatever all that stuff is. And you have her, and the first thing, her last name is Mboko or something like that. So immediately my spidey senses go up. And you work for the United Nations, and then you went to the London School of Economics. So I know that your life doesn't reflect black American life, black DOS life at all. But nobody takes the time to really investigate that. Nobody really takes the time to understand that. Even when you see, I was watching this network of this black woman who said, I'm going to show you how to travel for not a lot of money. And so as I was preparing for the show, I said, okay, let me see how you say I'm going to travel for not a lot of money. And the first thing she said was flexibility. Well, child, I don't know what world you live in. I don't know what boomer you hooked to. I don't know what kind of unicorn you are. But most black people, most dear American black descendants of slaves work jobs. And in jobs you have to put in, you have to plan when you're gonna be off, and put in a vacation request. So I don't know what you're doing, but this whole scam that we're running, trying to pretend that works for everybody, so it must be something wrong with me if I can't afford to travel. That needs to be over. Like, we can't even, I've traveled internationally like once or twice. Twice. And I remember one time being at a two times in my life being at an airport, and there was a Lebanese woman who saw my passport and said what I wouldn't give to have an American passport. And I wanted to say to her what I wouldn't give to have the wealth to be able to use it. An American passport gets you anywhere, anytime. You ain't got to worry about nothing. The code for America when you try to download is 1. Everybody else got strange codes, 2, 1, 3, 2. Nah, we number 1. My code is 1. I have an American passport that opens all kinds of doors for me that I can't afford to use. We can't afford to access our own country. Don't you see that? How do we not see that? That's fractional citizenship. When you cannot afford to access your own country, that's fractional citizenship. We built the country and we're not full citizens. And we can't afford to access the country that we built. We don't even have culturally what it takes to access the country that we built, because during a lot of the time we couldn't even travel. People weren't even serving us food. So we don't even have the cultural underbearing to travel to just get out and drive, because driving while black, and they used to not serve us food. They created a whole green book to be able to show us like where we could stop and eat, because white races were everywhere. Right? So when I talk about timing, see, please understand something. When I talk about timing, that's what I'm talking about. See, it wasn't just that we were taken off the board, it's that we got all of the awful stuff. Like, we got everything that was bad in this country. We ate all the failure. So it wasn't just like we got taken off the board and we were just sitting somewhere waiting to be put back on the board. No, we ate all the failure. So what do you think that means? What do you think it means when you have to eat all that failure? See, timing means something, and this is why I'm not xenophobic at all. But I understand. Now I want you to stay with me on this, because it's sort of philosophical. But it makes sense. Understand something. What is the value of the time that our ancestors fought for citizenship? We're talking about hundreds of years. We're talking about blood. We're talking about sweat. We're talking about constant disenfranchisement. And we're the only community that has been subjugated consistently since we got here. Maimed, killed, everything. Consistently. It happens people say, well, it happened to the Indians. Consistently. And the Indians didn't build this country, Native Americans. So, when I talk about that, I want you to talk about the time that was invested, right? For us to become citizens. Time. Effort. We talk about Frederick Douglass. You can talk about you can talk about W.B. Du Bois. You can go all the way back further before them. You can come all the way up to Martin Luther King. We're talking hundreds of years. That's the time. That is our time investment in this country. What does it mean when you're going to let somebody else become a citizen without that investment? So wait a minute. We had to do all of this. Our investment included all of this, and we're still not free. We still not free in this country, but this person gets to come over here and do it. I can't afford to travel in this country. My people can't afford to travel in this country, but somebody who just got over here, you're going to go to the airport and protest a travel ban, but you're not going to protest the fact that my people who built this country can't even afford to travel. We can't even afford to go take a week or 2 weeks to Europe or go do mountain backpacking and all this stuff. We can't afford to do that. But y'all going to show up at the airport and protest a travel ban. But you're not going to protest the fact that we can't afford to be American in the country of our birth. I'm going to say this, but the struggle of our ancestors only makes sense if it gains us the real and true access of citizenship. It only makes sense if we can use it to gain citizenship. Other than that, it don't make no sense. So what you're saying, if you don't want to get on board, you're saying that I'm okay with the fight that my ancestors fought being meaningless. You're rendering it meaningless because I don't want to be selfish. Because I don't want to say that I made a far greater investment in this country than people who just got here, and nobody's fighting for me, but everybody's at the border. And everybody's at the airport protesting. We talk about white flight. We talk about being unbankable. All of these things are things that show you that we as citizens, and then people say, well, white people poor too. Yeah, but this is, understand. We're talking about sustained over generations what happened to us. That's not the same thing. You don't get, and it's, it's very interesting. Let me just put this up. I read this article and it made me think about like what needs to happen. So you have everybody talking about a universal basic income, and I've been thinking a lot about it because my first thought, and one of my lessons to everybody is that don't trust your first thought. Your first thought is usually a liar. I was like, well, at least it gives us something to eat. Like my people are starving. People don't have jobs. Universal basic income is a way to at least get that minimal amount that's needed for us, right? And then you come across, like when you read fam, Breaking Brown fam, when you read, I want you to read slowly, read deeply. And I say that on the newsletter sometimes. Read slowly, read deeply. Read this line with me. When we talk about the universal basic income, it also alleviates moral debt because there is a floor for everyone. The wealthy can feel less guilt as they gain more wealth. So hold on, wait a minute. Skippity. Wait a minute. So a trillionaire like Jeff Bezos can give me $5,000, maybe at most $10,000 a year. And he can feel better. I would love more. See, this is lack of complex exchange and complex thought. Someone says, well, I would love extra $5,000 or $10,000 a year. But that doesn't access anything in America. Still. That's not going to put your kids through college. That's not even going to buy you a car that year. That's not going to do anything to anchor you in what it means to be American. Maybe you buy for whatever. Groceries, maybe some more clothes for the kids, maybe a program here and there. It's not going to let you access what it means to be American. And understand that once that happens, there is no reparations. They're just going to say, I gave you UBI. And then not only that, you know what can happen after they give us universal basic income? They can just raise everything by $10,000. So the cost of everything can go up, right? We gave you extra $10,000, but the scam is we're just going to raise the cost of most goods, so you're going to spend it and give it back to us anyway. Nobody ever thinks of the pitfalls of that sort of thing, especially black people, because what they're doing with DOS is they're just erasing our justice claim. So you're going to have this class-based argument and give everybody in the class something and not give us something that's specific to what our contribution has been in this country. You're going to whitewash over that, right? You're not going to give us anything. No redistribution for us. Okay. No moral obligation. And reparations requires a moral obligation. There is no reparations without a moral obligation. That's part of why I have such a conundrum about letting immigrants in at the level that we've been letting immigrants in, because they don't owe me anything, and they don't see themselves as owing me anything. They don't see America as owing me anything. And when you want to talk about it, we haven't even done enough in terms of how we are so divested from America as American Black DOS. We don't even do the basics of saying, you know what I would say? Listen, I want to reduce immigration numbers because I don't see, we have a dwindling job market. We have we don't need that level, right? But also the immigrants who come in terms of the American studies and heritage courses, I need that to be robust. If you can't speak English, I'll put it in Spanish, but you're still gonna have to learn it. I don't care how you do it. And I needed to have a very, very, very big part that's approved by DOS about what the American black descendant of slaves contribution to this country is. So when you walk into this country, you understand who I am, and you understand what me and my people represent, and you understand if you're brown that you wouldn't be here without us. That when you see us, you should walk up to us and be like, I'm so sorry, and thank you, I appreciate you. That should be your reaction. That should be a level of reverence. And see, you come in and you don't know it. You're not going to bother to learn it because you come from like Honduras or Mexico or something, whatever. You're not going to try to learn it. You don't care. I need for that to be a part of it. But since we as American Black DOS don't even have a conversation about, well, what does a good citizen look like? What does a good ally look like? Since we so divested and we got so many people saying, I don't care about this country, they can keep it. Well, that's your attitude, they will. And we got everybody, I don't care, I'm going to go back to Africa, man. They got it going on over there. Okay. Get over there and you can't come back. I wish everybody, you can't come back. Ain't no, I want to come home. I'm used to like different stuff. My lights staying on. I don't like generators. No, go stay. Go stay. You found your tribe. Fly, Clary, fly. So, one of the things that I think we have to understand is even the impediments in terms of universal basic income and how it, nobody, when it came time for Japanese Americans and Jewish people, and the Holocaust didn't happen here, when it came time for the reparations, like nobody skipped over them. Like reparations, people say, well, reparations is radical. It's not radical. We've done it before. We just haven't done it for descendants of slaves. We've done it for a whole bunch of other people. It's not radical. It's basic common sense. Like the con is convincing us and convincing you and convincing me that it's radical. It's not radical at all. It's a very basic program. And our case is right down the line. So I just, we have to understand that. And we have to understand what it means. You have to understand what it means that you have fractional citizenship. You have to understand that there's a value to our time, that there's a value to our contribution. And you have to understand that it devalues our contribution if somebody else can just come in and access that. Maybe we have to have work visas. There are a lot of different ways to deal with this that don't involve like you coming in and having access to the exact same thing I have access to. I don't think we really understand how we eat the whole cost of brown people being here, but none of the benefit. Like really, there's no way. Like when you look at what we contributed, not only what our ancestors contributed to here, like every brown person who comes into this country, like we should be making like $500K. Like just every descendant of slave. What I mean, when you look at the contribution and global contribution, we talk about the American contribution because it's where we live, but there was a global contribution. We talked about how many people know we just passed the anniversary of the 14th Amendment. Why didn't we fight to have the 14th Amendment like be specifically about descendants of slaves? We don't know how to protect our interests or our story. And so, we have to have that conversation. Time represents a certain development, right? And time is, when you talk about time, when you talk about what time is supposed to be, there's a reason why you have certain waiting limits. There's a reason, time is supposed to represent something. What happened in this country is that time happened and it didn't do what it was supposed to do for us. It was supposed to integrate us into society and make us full citizens. It didn't do that. So you don't get to come here and just not have to deal with that time when I still haven't had the benefits of the hundreds of years that my people spent in that time. You don't get to do that. And so nobody, well, Yvette, that's just me. I don't really care if it's me. It's fair. It's fair, though. It's fair. And everything, so we have to consider that. But I'm at the almost the hour mark, fam. So I'm going to set the phones up. I want to hear what everybody has to say about timing. I want to hear what you have to say about everything. timing and the complexity of America. This is not the old America. This is a very complex country now with complex exchange. And I just want to hear your thoughts about whether or not we're ready to deal and maneuver in a country with this level of complexity. So give me about 3 minutes. I'm going to set the phones up. Then we'll come back. We'll have a conversation. on, fam. I'm going to go to my first caller. Hold on 1 second. 1 second. I'm going to the first caller. I'm going to who? 586. 586. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Greetings, Yvette. My name's Leona, and I'm calling from Michigan. And
Hey, Leon.
I always enjoy listening to your show.
Thank you.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
But I gotta give you a little background to the question first.
Okay.
This might take maybe 2 minutes or something. I'm gonna go ahead and get started and try to keep it brief. Okay?
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right. Now, back on March 6th in 1857, the Dred Scott v. Sanford decision, where U.S. Supreme Court Justice Roger B. Taney stated that, well, the whole court had decided that, quote, persons of African descent cannot be, nor were they ever intended to be, citizens under the U.S. Constitution.
Absolutely.
Now, in 1857, they're talking about persons of African descent, and I think, we're still talking about black DOS. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Now, there was this attorney by the name of Lewis Clayton Jones. He lived from 1935 to 2006. He was an international attorney and, a human rights activist.
Okay.
Back in August of 1980, he was talking to the National Bar Association in Dallas, Texas. And he said the following. He says, if one reads the 14th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States, and if words do, in fact, have meaning, which, when used in a logically and grammatically coherent fashion, the question of African citizenship was resolved with the passage of that amendment, the 14th Amendment. Shall I read that amendment right quick, or keep going?
You can read a little bit of it. Go ahead.
Okay, 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. It says, Section 1, it says, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of law. That was ratified in July 9th, 1868.
Okay.
But Clayton Jones goes on to say that, okay, if he says why then, one must ask, did the Africans require a 15th Amendment? And that 15th Amendment was, briefly, the right of citizens of the United States should not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude.
Okay.
That was in 1870. And then he goes on to say, why was the 15th Amendment required, and why was the Civil Rights Act of 1866 required, and the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and the Voting Rights Act. Not to mention the thousands of lawsuits spanning more than 100 years, in which the status of the African as a student, voter, worker, and human being had to be debated and decided by one racist Supreme Court after another.
All right.
He who would argue that, I'm almost done, I'm last sentence here. He who would argue that the African is a citizen must also defend the position that all the lawsuits and legislation were mere intellectual exercises, and that Alice is still, alas, in Wonderland. End of quote. That was from Enough is Enough, 1981, by Lewis Clayton Jones.
Okay.
And now my question is, if you substitute African for black DOS, as you call them, does the same question apply? I mean, are we citizens? I mean, that's the question. What is a citizen? What is a non-citizen? And then lastly, and I'll get off the line, lastly, he says, those of us who value precision of language as a prerequisite to informed and rational action will begin at once to clarify the distinction between a citizen and a subject. For in the dangerous days ahead, a cluttered mind may be more dangerous to the security of the race than well, in this case, he says, than a defense by a Negro Christian minister and civil rights activist, Andrew Young, he's talking about, of the bankrupt policies of the most pathological killer in the history of mankind at the United Nations, end quote.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Carl.
That's all I have. But my question is, do you think that what he says is on target, still apply? Do you agree, disagree?
I mean, the thing is, here's the thing. For me, I understand.
Yes,
see, the thing is, we're citizens. Unequivocally. The problem is, America has never wanted to infuse that definition with meaning, right? So, you know, and the problem is what American Black DOS have done in response recently, not throughout history, because throughout history we fought America and said, you got to do this. But what I see happening now and over the past like 20, 30 years is instead of fighting America and saying, no, you got it wrong, I'm a citizen and you're going to treat me like one, what we have said is that, you know what, I don't want this country no way. And I think what we have done is, like, as of late, in terms of our response to America's continual rendering of us as something far less than a stepchild. Don't call us a stepchild. We're something far less than a stepchild. Stepchild get to be in the house. So what you see is like the response that we have is wrong. Like, we are citizens. This is my country. I'm anchored in this country. This is my only home. This is where my parents and their parents died. This is my country. Now, honestly, I think black people, American Black DOS should have been the ones talking about, I'm going to take my country back. Forget about Tea Parties. We should have been the ones saying, this is my country. But we somehow confuse divesting ourselves of this country as empowerment. And it's not empowerment to pretend as if this country does not control everything that happens in your life, politically and otherwise. So, in terms of when you ask, are we citizens? Absolutely. Has America done the work to make us what we are and what our country? They have not. Have, as of late, not historically, as of the last, I would say 20, 30 years, have we done, probably longer than that, probably like 40, have we done what's necessary to push America back? No, we've kind of abdicated our responsibility. We've kind of agreed with the KKK and kind of said, no, you're right, this ain't our country and we ain't want it no way. Where you gonna go though, Playboy? Where you going? You ain't going nowhere. You can't. This is. And it's for me, Carla, it's disrespectful to our ancestors to pretend that this is not our country and that we are not citizens of this country. So I hope that answers your question, Carla. I appreciate you.
Thank you for your feedback.
No problem. I mean, yeah, like I there's nothing more I can really say. Like, this is like it. Nobody's going anywhere. Like, let's stop playing. Can we stop playing this game with each other? Like, this idea that like we're going somewhere. Like, with no independent way to make an income. Like, most have jobs. Like, where are you going? Does the company you work for, does Coca-Cola have a headquarters that you can work for at Accra? Does you know, Lagos? Where are you going? Like, this, you can hate what America has done to us, but you cannot deny that this is our home, this is our country, regardless of all that. So it is what it is. I'm going to 312 now. 312, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind? You there, 312?
Hey, what's going on?
Not too much. What's going on? What's on your mind?
Hey, I just want to make a comment.
Okay.
I actually sent an email to editor at Breaking Brown.
Okay.
It was just to illustrate a point, like what you first started off the show.
Okay.
Me and my sisters got a little bit, and we were able to get that house. And what we did was essentially eliminate your largest bill, and that paid for private school and now pays for Tuskegee.
Okay.
With just a little bit.
Uh-huh.
And so when you talk about the intersection of fractional citizenship and complexity, especially the complexity of our financial system, I hope you can figure it out, because I've tried to communicate that very simple concept to a bunch of black folk, and it just went right over their head. Yeah. Like, you can take $25,000-$30,000 with your brothers and sisters and eliminate your biggest bill.
Yeah, but you're talking about. But what you're talking about. What you're talking about.
Doing well.
But what you're talking about, Carla? Hold on, just 1 second. I'm gonna let you finish, Carla. But just hold on 1 second. I don't want to talk over you. But I just want to interject something real quick, and I'm gonna just go on. But what you're talking about when you're talking about you did something with your sister, you're talking about this kind of communal thing, right? Like, I did something with my sister, right? See, the problem that's happening is that black people don't even want to be communal no more. Like, we don't even want to know. I need my own thing. I need my own space. I don't want to do that. I don't want to sacrifice. I don't want to do any of what you're talking about, because I've been told I don't have to do that. And so on a few shows ago, I said we're going to have to become much more communal in terms of how we interact, in terms of how we live and whatever. But nobody wants to hear that, because, you know, it's kind of like Antonio Moore said. We believe that we're like chocolate-covered white people. So you can finish your thought. I'm sorry.
You're right, and you've already said it. Everybody ain't gonna make it.
That's the truth. That's the truth. It's uncomfortable.
You ain't gonna make it alone.
Nope.
You ain't gonna make it alone, and you gonna have to learn it the hard way. So,
yeah. And not only that, Carla, some of our families aren't willing to do what you and your sister did. So a lot of us are in families where they don't want to do that. They don't want to do what you're talking about. So then who do you do it with? How do you do it? See, you're lucky in the sense that you had a sister who was willing to be communal with you, right? A lot of us don't have that. We don't have people who, like, we can talk to and be like, okay, let's do X, Y, and Z together. No, I want to do this by myself, and I'm fine over here. So and then when they crash and burn, though, do you know what? Can I borrow $60 until like 2-3 weeks from now? Don't be like that. Why you being like that? It ain't but $60. You ain't got $60. You don't got it.
Well, we already know how to do that. It's in the language. We refer to people as cousins, cuzzo, uncle, and aunts, and stuff like that. And so we know how to put together a family. If yours is that dysfunctional, we just have to relearn that.
Yeah. Or sometimes you got to go make a new family. You're going to have to go find new people. I don't know. Sometimes it just ain't going to work, Carla. Sometimes it ain't going to work. You're going to have to just go out and find new people. You're going to have to make a new DOS family. That's why I call it the Breaking Brown family. I don't know, because sometimes you just, the family that you got ain't going to work. And like, because they don't see what you see. And so maybe, like, one of my hopes is maybe through this channel, like, you know, we can have a forum and we can, like, network and do stuff together, because a lot of us have people who just can't see what we see, and they want to see it individually, but they're never going to see it collectively. They never want to do the work to see it collectively, and I can't work with you if you can't do that.
Correct.
Appreciate you calling in, Carla.
I mean, I would
go ahead.
Okay.
No, you got the last word.
Oh, yeah. I was saying, I'd like to see Breaking Brown meetup chapters everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, I stay on the road, so I don't have time, but I would love to be a part of one.
That'd be great. No, I agree, Carl. I agree. That'd be a good thing. I'll come out and christen them or whatever. Thank you, Carl. I appreciate you, though. I appreciate you. Yeah, I mean, you know, that's why I call it the Breaking Brown family, because in a lot of ways, like, I get a lot of, you know, emails in a lot of ways. Like, I've had a lot of people tell me, like, this is where I come to, like, really talk to people, and people who in the chat a lot of times know each other, and that, like, this is what it is. Like, a lot of people have families that are on some whole other, I'm going to get it. Like, you 55, but you don't know. You just got to stay that path, and you don't come around me being negative. Well, I ain't got to come around you at all. You're lost. Anyway, I'm going to area code 973. What's on your mind? Where you calling from?
Hey, what's up, Yvette? This is Carl out of New Jersey.
What's going on?
I just wanted to say, you know what? I'm good. You know what? You're right. You know when I kind of questioned, I our citizenship is when I think Katrina, when they was referring to us as refugees, Black DOS, you know. So, you know, that kind of discouraged me. But also, as my political education grew, and I started to kind of like appreciate the contributions of the people who came before me, I'm like, no, this is our country.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I mean, we're not going anywhere.
Nope.
You know what I'm saying? So, so our fight was here. You know what I'm saying? And I think that when I'm in the comment sections, or I even hear Antonio Moore on different shows, and everybody is like, oh man, you know, they talking, what's the solution? I'm like, comprehension is lost.
Yeah.
I found that out even when I'm in the comment sections, and I clearly type something and try to articulate it to the best of my ability, and people come under my comment and just totally miss the mark. So for one, we're dealing with lack of comprehension skills.
Yeah.
And also, basically what this show is, and what you and Antonio are doing, it's like, before any solutions could come, most people need a political education.
That's the foundation.
I'm still hearing, without a political education, like, what are we going to do? I'm still hearing people talk about boycott. When your last show, you basically show the networks that these corporations have, where one company is connected to another company, to another company, to another company, in a whole nother country.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So this is what we're dealing with now. And we're dealing with people who talk about our spending power. They don't, I got into a talk with somebody, and I'm like, listen, they print money. The Federal Reserve print money.
Absolutely.
They don't need our money. When the top 1% of white wealth has more than every Black DOS combined.
Combined.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I listen to 105.1, and I don't know the woman who was up there talking, but somehow she's into politics, worked with Bernie Sanders, and she's still talking about black girl magic, you know, and so I'm hearing this, but I'm hearing the raw numbers and the raw truth, and we still hearing Black DOS that's in these political parties feed us propaganda, or on a black man's side, we still got people talking about our contributions to Egypt. You know what I'm saying? What that has to do with what we're facing with right now. So it's just basically, it's not whether you or Antonio have a solution. It's basically we need to come to grips with what's really going on, so then collectively we can work on a solution. Every individual needs to work on their own individual solution and come together as a whole.
But don't nobody want that.
What we're talking about here.
Don't nobody want that, Carla. Everybody wants you to tell them how they can get a Bentley by this time next Saturday. Like, everybody wants you to tell them how you that's what they want.
Yeah, so like, for instance, I'm not shooting down education. I was just at a cookout, and I just happened to hear a conversation of a friend of mine's cousin was just pushing her, girl, go ahead, take another loan out, get your PhD, and I'm just like, just to go into more debt, and where you going to plug this PhD into? Yeah,
you got to hook up.
It depends on what you're going to school for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Here it is. This woman, she's basically is a prototype of Black DOS life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She has her master's degree. She's paying a mortgage by herself. She's still paying back student debt. Her husband was just arrested and was given 20 years for being at the wrong place at the wrong time. But your cousin is sitting there telling you to go back into further debt and get your PhD. So I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, and who do you know? Who do you know in that industry? Like, people are plugging these things in because they know somebody. Like, I gotta, like, people don't understand. Like, you see white people who were lawyers, but they got a family. They know somebody. Like, my uncle grows all the oranges, or you know, for like for the Florida Juice Company, and so I know they're gonna need attorneys. Like we don't even know how they're plugging these things in. We don't have any idea how we're gonna plug it in. We just know we're gonna go to school. Cause we like school is good and they still get educated. Like that complexity. That's what we're talking about, right? Complexity.
Yeah, real complexity. I'm gonna end with this too. I just think that also when you guys talk, and we're talking about what's old to us. I mean, it's kind of like we're ashamed to say that, because we took on all these right wing talking points. Sometimes talking to some black DOS, you think you was talking to Rush Limbaugh or Sean Hannity or somebody.
Yeah.
But we really just need to come to grips with where we are. Like, I was just at a festival downtown Newark. And no disrespect, Yvette, not to talk about our people, but I looked at everybody that was in that park, and everybody just looked broken. I mean, it was a joyous musical festival, but everybody looked broken. I mean, Newark is it's just a different place. I mean, everybody looked like they just,
it ain't.
They just got themselves together. What was that?
I said it ain't. Like, you go to Milwaukee, it'll be looking like that. You come to a lot of Atlanta. Atlanta got a lot of frauds. Atlanta got a lot of plastic Negroes, but I ain't gonna get into that. But and it'd be the same thing. Yeah, like we are broken, but nobody want to admit they broken, right?
We just don't. We just don't look good.
Because we're not doing good. We're not doing good. The data shows we don't look good because we ain't doing good. Like, when you look, we're not doing good. And like, we can't just admit, like, listen, Carla, you right, we're not doing good. Like, what you saw is real. We're a broken group. But nobody wants to admit. Everybody wants to be like, I'm on Millionaire Street.
It's amazing, but you guys keep doing what you're doing. The only thing I can do is in my small group have these conversations, and I'm not afraid to walk away from people who talking stupid. Because just the other day, I told a friend of mine, once he started kind of like saying something that ain't make no sense, he was like, yo, let me speak my piece. I said, no, I'm just not about to sit here and let you just talk in riddles and circles and stupidity. I got to cut you short.
Yeah, I got to cut you.
I'm not afraid to turn my back on people.
And thank you, Carl. I appreciate it. I appreciate you calling in. And let me just tell y'all. I'm gonna just tell y'all straight. I'm gangster with mine. I won't just cut you short. I'll cut you off. I'm not gonna be here talking to you. I gave you a book recommendation a year and 4 days ago. I ain't read it, but I know. Yvette, I know. Listen. There are people who know me who know that there have been times you have tried to call me. You talked to me on Wednesday, and then when you call, I have blocked your phone number. Wonder why? I'm not going to do this with you. I'm not going to play this game with you where you refuse to access information. What did Alexander say on a previous show? Belief makes it impossible to access knowledge. Belief makes the access of knowledge impossible. We got a lot of people running around here believing stuff who have made wealth building into a religion. Well, I don't have nothing to do with that. But where I'm going and where you going are not the same place. And when I recognize it, I just got to pivot. I'm probably the only person who's known it, who you can say ghosted friends or people. I just can't do it. And you know why it was. You know what happened. You said every time I told you time and time again, there's nothing you're saying is anchored in anything empirical. I said that to you, and you still kept talking to me and coming back to me with the same thing. How many times do you think I'm going to waste my breath on this conversation? Those are minutes in my life that I will never get back. Life on this planet is finite. I have to build with the people who are trying to build with me and trying to read stuff and do stuff and understand stuff. I can't build with you. I can't get you to understand. I always try to get my people I know to understand stuff, listen to this and read this or whatever. But you always come back and you've never done your homework. We can't build together. You're just stealing my life. You're wasting my life. You're wasting time I could be spending with members of the Breaking Brown family. I can't do it. So I'm going to the next caller. I am going to 646. 646, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind? Turn down your background, caller. Hello? You there, caller? 646, you there? 646? 646? Sorry, 646. 404, I'm coming to you. 404, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hello, everyone. This is Dawn calling from Atlanta.
What's going on, Dawn?
This evening. Hey, all right. So 2 things. One, I was talking to my friend. We talk about Brick and Brown, and I've called in a couple of times. But I wanted to share what politics means, and this whole idea that you can pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and if you just work hard, it'll happen. So the company I work for a tech company out of San Francisco. Okay. And 5 days ago, so anybody can Google it. If you type it in right now, San Francisco, they literally have legislature that they're looking to ban corporate lunches, corporate cafeterias from new companies actually having them, because a local coalition of restaurant owners have come together saying that you are killing our business. I'm going to give you a quote. This owner, one of the owners said, it's pretty hard to compete with good and free. So these are supposedly people that I'm going to make it, I have a great product, I'm going to work hard. They've come together to say, I don't want you giving free benefits like snacks, lunches, breakfast to your employees because they don't leave the building and they don't spend money with us. My personal company, they have catered in lunch Monday through Thursday. You don't have to leave the building. Then they have 2 full kitchens of everything from nuts like almonds to snack foods, to chocolate, to avocados, to bananas.
Really?
You don't have to leave the building, and the purpose is so you don't leave and you work all day. They cannot compete. So when we talk about politics, and you're talking about you don't ask government for anything, are you joking? People are like, I can't compete with good and free. They're literally going to stop these corporations from having these corporate cafeterias to force people out into the street to come to their restaurants. And if that's not politics, if that's not somebody coming to the government saying, help me with my business and give me something, what is?
It is. Absolutely is. Yeah,
So
give me your
So
employees.
y'all,
I said, they're saying, give me your employees. Your employees don't come outside because you got free food. Give me your employees. Put them outside. I need them to come outside and eat.
And matter of fact, one of the offers, one of the ideas on the table is to give vouchers. So the Twitter, whatever Twitter, all of those different companies will give their employees vouchers to use at local restaurants instead of them eating for free in the building. So
ain't that
that's
something?
the first example. Go ahead.
No, I said, ain't that something?
I think it's really interesting. So so it's incredible when people are like, what do you mean politics? That's the only way to get the things you need, even when you don't deserve them. I thought these people are supposed to be capitalists, competitors, best on the market, and they cannot compete. They're going out of business and they're losing their money. So they go to the government to bail them out and help them and force a market for themselves. Now, the other example I have when it comes to politics, and I think the last couple of callers really talked about, like one talked about his sister getting together with his sister, talking about we have to come together as a coalition, as a group, in order to push forward our ideas. And so I've called in, I've talked to you about education, and so I'm pretty big. I work a lot in the school system in Atlanta Public Schools. And one of the schools that my kids have been at, and I've been there for 5 years straight, the high school, is in decline. It's a nationally known school, and it should not be in decline.
Okay.
But when we talk about politics, literally, and I'm not exaggerating, 2 of the board members, I literally helped them get elected. Remember you talked about an exchange?
Yeah.
Well, if I put in the work up front, maybe I'll have their ear, so that when I say this is a need in this school and our cluster in this district, maybe they'll hear me and maybe things can happen. But the problem is that because when I did like a meet and greet, like I did things that didn't cost, I didn't actually donate a whole lot of money, but I just held like events. The problem is it goes back to what you were talking about, money. I don't have the money. I mean, when I say it hit and slapped me in the face, I don't have, and my little group of people, we don't have the money to truly access the money to access and get on their agenda and actually get change. No matter what we do not have the power and the money to move their agenda. And it doesn't matter how right we are and how we're trying to make it improve education overall for the masses. when you talk about the trillionaires and you talk about Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos, I don't think people understand how real that is. And so on a very local level, I feel the impact of not having the money to move somebody's agenda and how they blow you off.
Yeah. No, I agree. But what that means is that but then that same person, you'll have that conversation with somebody who will be like, well, I still don't agree with the estate tax. No, that means that if you don't have the money to help move the agenda, that means that somebody got too much money. That's what it means. If you have a bunch of people and you get them together, you should have enough to move it. That means that somebody got too much money, but I don't really want to take that man's money. Why? I'll take it all if I could get it. Why wouldn't you want to take it? He ain't think about you. We have too much compassion. Politics is a blood sport. It's not built for compassion.
It is.
It's not built for that. And if you think that, you're not built for it.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Earlier you made a comment about you're more cutthroat where you cut people off. So, as I told you before, we've had a series of meetings this summer, again, trying to turn the school around, and we had 8 specific areas that we brought to our school board members and the APS leadership. Okay. And we said, here's the 8 areas of concern. We believe these have contributed to the demise of the school, and we want to hold you accountable to them. Do you know that literally, when you say cutting people off, when I tell you, you could tell people were uncomfortable in the room.
Yeah.
Because as soon as the principal would start talking or the associate superintendent would start talking, I would go, I need to redirect you. That is not answering my question. I literally had people in the audience, I promise you, got up and said, you're rude.
Yeah.
Maybe the reason why they don't listen to your ideas is because you don't know how to talk to people. And I said, actually, I think it's rude that we gave them an agenda ahead of time. They've had plenty of time, and they're purposely filibustering. They're not answering the questions. And I told them, instead of you being smart enough to understand, they're dodging, they're using conquer and divide and conquer to get us to infight. Instead, pay attention. Why aren't they answering the questions? Why are they actually talking about why these teachers are resigning left and right? What's happening in this building, the chaos? But instead, you fighting me because you feel I'm being rude. So all I want to say is that everything, when I say I have so many examples, and this is it, I have so many examples to support when you say that, one, we don't have the money to access. We don't have the power to get these people to do what we want. They use other black people that are comfortable in their positions. Yep. Black people are not comfortable with challenging people. It's incredible. They literally want what you want, but they're not willing to risk favor.
Exactly.
I better not look like I'm on her side because the principal might not talk to me, and then my kids, they are so afraid that there's so few people. So I will tell you that it is a joy to hear the other callers. It is a joy to read the comments, to know that there are other people out there, like the last caller said, that I walk away. I'm comfortable enough in myself and understanding where we are as a people that I tell people directly, I'm not rude, kind of like I'm talking to you now, but it is very direct. And for a lot of people, it's very painful. But it is hard once you get it. It is so hard dealing with people that don't get it.
It is. It is
difficult.
You're right. No, you ain't lied. It is. It's very hard. I know that. It's very hard. It's very hard. And I get accused of being rude all the time. And it's just like
that's my middle name.
Yeah, and the thing is, if you're in a professional environment, I was in an environment one time that was not like a professional environment, and I was having a debate with this guy about hip hop or Jay-Z, and at a certain point somebody had to come break us up because they thought he was gonna hit me, and so that's what you kind of risk. I don't think we understand how unhinged some people in our community are, and what that means in terms of the abdication of leadership of a lot of those who came before us, in terms of they don't know. So me criticizing Jay-Z or whatever, he came up to me, he's pissed off because of something I said about Jay-Z, and I'm I don't care, it is what it is, and he's like, he's all huffy and puffy. What you huffy and puffy with me for? Why are you in a position where you feel like you want to almost get violent over a person that you don't know and doesn't care about you? And so, that's part of it. And then people don't really even understand that, we get accused of being rude. No, what we're really doing is holding you to a specific standard. And like, and you don't understand that. Like, there's a standard here, and this person is using your ineptitude and your obtuseness to try to navigate around that standard, and I'm not allowing it. And you don't even understand that what I'm doing is for the best of you. I'm doing what's best for you. But you wanna be in here and shuck and jive. So it's almost like, it's almost like I should just let you be here and shuck and jive and just go do my thing because you don't care. But I won't do that. I won't be here.
No, I mean, you're absolutely right, because I literally go through periods of like, why do I care? My kid is in this last year. My last child is coming out, and they're okay. You know what I mean? So, like, why am I fighting this? Because so it's almost like they put all these people in front of you before you can get to them. So you literally have to take out your neighbors, used to be friends,
yeah,
school system, because they literally have people that block you in meetings that try to. And it's such a fight just to get to them. And you just wonder, but it's a hard road. But I just want to again commend you.
Thank you.
I don't know how many ways to say. As I said before, there's so many examples. Politics is the way, but we have to be on the same page. We have to be clear about our purpose, and we have to hold people accountable. And we have to figure out a way, like you said, to I don't know how we do it, but to kind of get the money to really try to be able to influence the people in power to get things changed.
Well, we can't
that's
even.
All I have tonight.
Thank you, Carl. I appreciate you, but we can't get the money till we get the mindset. Understand something? Don't talk to me about money unless you have mindset. I was talking to a friend on the phone today and said, like, a lion don't really think about what's happening when it's killing a gazelle. Like, what you mean? Like, it's just killing the gazelle. It ain't thinking like, this gazelle is dying. Is that right? Is that morally right? Like, we're not in a position to think. Like, we have to be. I don't think we understand how vicious we have to be right now. And we are morally righteous. It's the moral high ground to be who we are and, like, be vicious right now. That's just we occupy the moral high ground. We have done everything. We have built this country. We have always tried to do the right thing, and we've been beaten back. We have the right to be like, you know what? I'm taking all the gloves off. I'm unsheathing all the daggers, and I'm going for what I know. We have the right to do that. We're just not doing it. We're not anybody's therapist. We're not anybody's counselor. We got to go get what we got to get. And we have to have the political foundation to be anchored in something that kind of emboldens us. These books I give aren't just about, like, the data. That's important, sure enough. But it's also important to be emboldened in the story of your community and to be emboldened in it. That's important to kind of like understand who your community is and how we have a history of fighting and how we have a history of male and female warriors in terms of DOS. You have to kind of have that to kind of put some steel in your back when you're going up against the most powerful country in the world and some of the most vicious people. You have to have it. And that's kind of why I have focused so much on, like, laying this foundation. I'm going to 414. 414, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, this is Quentin, and I'm calling from Milwaukee. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. What's going on?
Hey, so basically I just had a couple of questions for you. Just like 2 questions. But I wanted to start the conversation by saying, like, I remember that you sort of the person who introduced me to The Color of Law.
Yeah.
And that was a really telling and good book. And then I don't know, have you ever heard of a book called The Color of Money?
I have that book. Yeah, that author was actually, I think, on Iron Me show, on Iron Me, my former co-host. I think she was on his show. It's a while back. You got to go back probably about at least 6 or 8 months. I can't remember when, but yeah, I have that book and read that book too.
Yeah. Okay. So those 2 books, The Color of Law and the Color of Money, I thought was very interesting books to me. And I say it because I feel as though people have ignored really what these authors have said, and both similarly said that the Constitution would have to be rearranged to fix some of our economic issues, as Black Americans are descendants of slaves. My questions to you are, how do we convince the USA to fix the Constitution where Black Americans are able to actually get a start on wealth? Because according to Richard and Marsha's data, that's really the only way we can get a real start going for Black Americans. Because no amount of pulling money and do for selfing will do justice. Data shows that. I've seen your data. You said the same thing. That there's no amount of do for selfing that will fix this. And then my second question to you is, do you believe that in a pro-capitalism modern America, that the 38 states that we would need to change the Constitution would be willing to do that? And if not,
what is the change to the Constitution that you're speaking of? What is the change that was recommended? I can't recall.
Yeah, what is it, Richard Rothstein? I can't exactly remember the part of it that he was saying, but he was saying that the Constitution, I think it's like more so, I want to say the amendments that's regarding housing and things like that. He was saying that in order for it to be like a real change, that part of it would have to be restructured, so
I don't know that I totally agree with that. I'm not saying I'm opposed to it. But I think American Black DOS need wealth. Like that's what we need what we missed out on. Like we can't go back now and get it. Like there's no way to go back into 1919 and be like, okay, now I'm gonna get it. So there's no time machine, right? And so there's no way to make up for us eating the failure. There's no way to, and the only way to give us the success that we earned is wealth. Like I think all of that constitutional and all that stuff just kind of misses the fact that like. See, it doesn't matter. People keep talking to me about whether reparations is feasible. Reparations is necessary. Like that's your life. Like that's your ancestors' life. That's all that's being taken off the board. That's the free labor. That's eating all the failure. That's all of it. So you don't have to go back. I just think you have to do reparations. I think you have to do it. And I think that's that to me.
No, I'll let you go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I think that's a solution, but nobody wants that solution because there's a real cost to that solution. Because if you give DOS reparations, white people have to have less because it's going to cost so much. So it's going to cost so much. That means that you as a white American are going to have less. Not my problem. Yeah. But nobody wants to do it because there's a sacrifice, and white America has never been willing to make a collective sacrifice on our behalf, and that's what. And when you talk about it, what we have to have is a political foundation. Before I even get to white people, I have to get my people to understand what this means and why it's necessary. I can't have them saying, "Well, I don't really need a handout." Oh my God, it's wages already rendered, and everything else that just never were paid. It's not a handout. Like if I can't get there, how do I expect to convince white America if I can't convince Black America? How?
Yeah, that's true. And, that was my thing, too. Like, cause she did, the person who wrote The Color of Money, Marsha, she did say that, that could speed things up if we are to receive reparations.
Yeah.
But she was saying even studies show that even with reparations, because I remember the thing, or it was a study that came out saying how Black people will, accumulate the wealth of white, I think average white families or something like that in 200 and some odd years. And she was saying that even that is contradicting within itself, even if we were to get reparations. She said if the capitalistic society that we still live in continues to play the role that it's playing, she said even 200 and some years later, it still won't be,
No, but you will have to. It will have to be. See, the thing is, it will have to be like I said earlier today in a Facebook post that, I had revisited some earlier thoughts I had because the NAACP had a reparations plan, but it wasn't like when you go look at it, if you go look at their site, it's not nearly robust enough. See, what they want to do, what too many people want to do with reparations, they want to use reparations to make us equal, right? They want to say, well, we get some health care and we get some infrastructure or whatever, and we get made equal. Given our contribution, we don't need to be made equal. The only thing that can make us survive, forget thrive, is if we have a wealth edge. If we have more is what we need. We don't need sameness. Sameness won't get us anywhere. So if you do a reparations plan like the NAACP and you give us a degree of sameness and equality, then what you know what white America will do is what white America has always done. They will find a way to carve us out. They will find a way to carve us out. Yeah. I need to have real money and real benefit to where you don't have the power to carve me out no more. You don't have the power to do that. There's nothing that you can do. I have wealth now. And when you have wealth in America, people have to deal with you. They have no choice. I don't just need health care. I don't just need, and I was kind of for this because I thought it was the best we could do. But when you look at it, like, I don't need to just kind of be equal to the next white person because they're just going to devise a way to make me not equal. I need to kind of have an edge over you. I need a wealth edge that puts me here and puts you here. Oh, you don't want to be on the bottom, huh? Okay, that's what this whole fight has been about, huh? But that's what I need.
Yeah, and I'll argue too. I think that once we get the wealth, I think it'll be nice. But then also, I think you discussed this a lot too in the group is that we still need laws, right? We need those laws to also protect us from angry white folks. That because a lot of the time the law is the reason why I think. Well, it is the big reason why we are what we are today. But I'm saying, like, do you believe that also we need, like, structured laws that protect us once we get that wealth? Because, there's going to be a lot of angry people.
Yeah. The government has abandoned us too many times. We absolutely need, it's absolutely necessary. The government abandoned us during Reconstruction. The government abandoned us prior to that. The government let white mobs come. You had black people be like, we got to start our own business. We started our own businesses. We had all kinds of businesses. And white mobs got jealous and came and took it. We can't have anything if government, the only entity big enough and strong enough to protect us from this happening again is government. So anybody who tells you that you don't need government is a moron. They don't understand history and they're not worth your time.
That's true. Well, thank you, Yvonne.
Thank you.
Appreciate the conversation you had. I do hope, I don't know, when you come to Milwaukee, I remember telling you this before when I saw that, you have a very big following here in Milwaukee. There's a few people I know that watch your show, and we love you in Milwaukee.
Thank you. I appreciate you, fam. I'll think about that next time. If I ever get the opportunity to go to Milwaukee, I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you.
760, thanks for the love, Milwaukee. 760, I'm coming to you. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hi, Levette. My name is Marlon. I'm calling from Oceanside, California.
Okay.
And then, say full disclosure, I'm an immigrant.
Okay.
I came here when I was 5 years old.
Okay, where you from?
I'm a citizen, was in the military. And
where you from? You said you immigrated. Where you from?
Jamaican.
Okay.
So, like everyone says about solutions, I have one solution, and you talked about finding allies, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And my thing is, we need to find our traders, because since I'm like militaristic, there's like you can be a trader of circumstance or a trader by choice. And then you talked about that woman, the African woman, talked about that with her family of slave traders. She's a trader by choice.
Yeah.
Right, and we have our people. And DOS Americans or Jamaicans in particular, that you can be a trader by circumstance because you're poor. And because you found out that in Michigan, they had that literacy thing, and then they were not basically, the school kids lost that case because there's precedent in that shitty ass judge.
Yeah.
So if you can't read the laws, we're not literate, then we all the same thing. We can't understand what's being told to us.
Yeah.
And it's all been a systematic thing against us. So my thing is, like, that's really one of the choices that we have, like, a solution. We have to freaking call out our traders. And you were talking about, like, the old heads that freaking fail us completely. John Lewis. And I'm going to say even Jesse Jackson is a part of that category. Because he should have, the first thing, because you're going to meet that guy. Wait, let me say. The first thing, you should meet that guy. Because he advocated all his reasonings, because he was there when the crack era was happening. He was there. You know what I'm saying? Like, he knew this was happening to us. He said, like, up with hope, down with dope, and then he go for the systematic things about it. The first thing should come out of it is an apology. An apologize to black people, especially DOS, for his failures. And, like, after that, he can say what he wants.
Well, you know what I think, caller? I think that Jesse Jackson. Jesse Jackson is first of all the only leader that I can think of, other than John Lewis, who is just gone the way of the I don't know, who has an authentic connection right now, on the national stage to the civil rights movement, right? And the second thing I think is that even when you, and I agree that we should change the name from African, in terms of African American, like it shouldn't be, but I understand kind of where they came from. Like, you're coming out of the era of like Lumumba, right, and other people, these African leaders who were trying to fight like white imperialism. Like, we're at a totally different place now, right, in terms of where we are. And then I think of 80 and 80, I think of Jesse Jackson's run for presidency. And everything that, if you read the books about what happened behind the scene, Reverend Jackson was really trying to leverage things for, like, DOS people in a way that really mattered. Whether you can render it, Adolph Reed wrote a book about it or whatever, and it was a decent book, and there are all sorts of books wrote about it. Like, in terms of, like, being one man and what he did, like, I have not seen anybody else do that. That doesn't mean he was always right. Doesn't mean anybody should always agree. But, like, the way he tried to maneuver, and there was a real cost to that. Like, there was a real cost to that for him and his family of trying to maneuver in that space. But I don't put Reverend Jesse Jackson. I respect him. Regardless of whatever, I respect him. I'm going to see him in, like, a week. And I'm not a week. I'm going to see him soon. But, like, I judge people partially based on intention, too. And I think not only did Reverend Jackson do a lot of good stuff or try to do a lot of good stuff, he paved the way for Barack Obama. It's not his fault that Barack Obama wasn't nothing, or that we didn't leverage anything from Obama. Like, there would have been no Obama, though, without any Reverend Jesse Jackson. But we didn't do what was necessary to hold Obama accountable, or even make sure Obama was, like, anchored in DOS. So I think this is a very, very complicated kind of conversation. But, like, I respect him. I respect Reverend Jackson. It just is what it is. It doesn't mean I won't have a conversation with him about how some things have to change. But I respect that man.
Oh, that's completely fine. But, and my thing is, like, it's a circumstantial choice. I didn't say it was a choose to be that, but, like, in the position of echelons where he's up at, and when he said it privately, he wanted to punch Obama in the face. You can't say something terrible about a guy that we now know he was not about us. But you kept it, and it came out like the fuse. You gotta, like, sometimes speak about what this guy really is.
But let me just say something, Carla. As somebody who spoke out against Obama after Obama got elected, I got called everything but a child of God. See, the thing is, like, people say, well, Jesse should have spoke out earlier and he got caught on a hot mic. Well, he got caught on that hot mic. Well, the thing is, like, as somebody who spoke out against Obama in, like, 2011 or the problem is, people can say, well, you should have, but Black America wasn't ready to hear it anyway. Like, even when he said it, his own son kind of spoke out against him and be like, well, my daddy's from... Like, nobody was... I can tell you, as somebody who spoke out against Obama early, nobody was ready to hear it. People talking like they was ready to hear it, but nobody was ready to hear it. Everybody... I can't tell you the amount of hate mail I got from talking... From criticizing Obama.
And I understand that, but, like, right now, you're like a prophet to what's going on to us as a community, and how we will be systematically destroyed if we don't do anything right now and be vicious about it.
I agree that we gotta do something right now. I agree with that part. We gotta do something right now. But I'm just saying, I'm just speaking to why Jesse Jackson didn't do more during that time. Like, I remember Maxine Waters said something about Obama, and everybody went crazy. Like, I don't think we understand how much Black America were fanboys and girls. I won't even say that's why we were just kids when it came to Obama. Like, we didn't really, there was no thinking, there was no anything. Everybody was like, everybody was at me like, Yvette, he's darker skinned than you. Who are you? He blacker than you. You mulatto dog. Like, you don't even understand. Like, I don't think anybody understands what those of us who criticized Obama went through. And I think I don't know. There's no way for me to know. But I would think that Jesse Jackson had more of a weather vane than I did, and he knew that was going to be the case, and talked about it privately, but didn't talk about it publicly. But I don't know.
Hello?
I'm here, caller. I'm gonna let you have the last word.
Oh, just another thing, right? You know how the Nazis are the big bad for everyone?
Uh-huh.
And I was watching DW on PBS, and they had Black in Germany. And the only reason I bring this up is basically there were black people in Germany when the Holocaust was going on. And the reason, like, because this black woman was talking to another black man that was in that time, and the reason they didn't kill off any black people is because they weren't a threat.
Mm.
And they were killing off, Romy, gypsies, crippled people, Jews, of course, but the black people in Germany, they didn't kill them off because they were considered not a threat. So I'm saying now, if that's the big bad, and they got how to treat black people from America, and America treats us like we're the biggest threat in the world, while the biggest bad was said, nah, don't worry about them.
Mm.
I'm like, well, there's a dichotomy there that's really crazy if you think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. There is caller. I want to get to a couple. I want to try at least to get to a couple more calls. So I'm gonna let you go. But yeah, I agree. And the thing is, people don't know that, like, there were black people during that in Germany who got jobs because of what happened to the Jews. It was all very complicated. It wasn't just one way. It was all very complicated. Ugh. But there's a great book about that. I gotta find it though. It's somewhere. I have it somewhere. 410, you're probably going to be my last caller tonight. 410, what's your name, where you calling from, and what's on your mind?
Hey, my sister, how are you?
I'm doing all right.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes, Brother Donald calling from Baltimore, Maryland.
What's going on, Baltimore?
Let me give you a quote.
All right.
And the quote is that life is hard, but it's harder when you're stupid. And that's where we are right now as a people. We stuck on stupid. You was talking about, as far as our thinking was concerned, taking a quantum leap as far as in our thinking and our mentality. I'm a political thug. And right now, I'll say a former talk show host. I have 4 programs in Baltimore City since 2009. All of them have been boycotted by black folks, our folks, because I talked about Obama and black politicians. And holding people responsible that look like us, because we have 5 black bands in Baltimore City, and the conditions in this hyper-segregated neighborhoods and communities. You familiar with Baltimore because you have the book, The Color of Law. Mm-hmm. And Baltimore has been basically the catalyst for basically housing laws, redlining, restrictive covenants that have taken place that originate out of Baltimore have gone to other cities. Now, we got this thing of pigment politics, and it's not working on behalf of our people. And we can't seem to get our people to be able to move from that and deal with economic, political, and pocket issues. Now, right now, Baltimore City, 2 weeks ago, I was down to City Council. Some legislation was passed. A bill was passed that will go to referendum. And basically what it is a door open for the residents of Baltimore City to sue the Baltimore City government for reparations. Because the legislation is basically, they want to take $15 million from the police budget. And the Councilman Brandon Scott pushed through this legislation, and this legislation basically says is that they want to create this fund to correct the historical, structural inequity that has taken place in this city, which is driving the crime, and the blight. And I try to express this to our people, and our people don't seem to understand what I'm talking about. This is an opportunity for folks in Baltimore City to lead the country in opening the door to suing the cities for the structural, historical racism that has taken place and that is still taking place within this country. dynamic job and a dynamic work.
Thank you.
And if it wasn't from folks like yourself and others that are out there that are doing what they're doing, our people be dumb as a doorknob and ignorant as hell.
Well, I appreciate
for folks like myself, my problem has been is that from day one with Obama, I have basically spoken out against him because I knew who he was. Yeah. And our folks are into this rock star celebrity mentality. At this point, I don't believe that. Folks say it's kind of negative, but I don't see a lot coming from our people because our people seem to have lost the will and determination to fight. We have no real sense of self-interest, and we have this love for all these other people. We don't have that same love for ourselves and therefore.
Well, no, I agree with you. I agree with you, Carla. I'm gonna let you go because I need to end the show. I'm gonna let you go. But I agree with you. It's not that. It's that first of all, we don't have a self-definition. So in order to have self-love, you have to define yourself. Like most of us define ourselves individually. When we're born, we know I am Yvette. I am Yvette D. Carnell. That's who I am. I have defined myself. But we are in this space where we haven't really defined our group. And so it's hard to love your group if you haven't defined your group. And so what I want to leave you with, ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about what I talked about before, if we don't have the wealth to access our citizenship, then you don't have even the wealth to access a family. If you, Breaking Brown family, are still paying off your student loans, and you probably won't pay off your student loans, then what that means to me is that you can't pay for the college education of your child. You cannot take on college debt when you have not finished your debt. So what you're really telling me, Breaking Brown family, is that America, the country of our birth that we built with, our ancestors built with free labor, has priced us out of being American and able to even have a family in these United States of America. I want you to think on that tonight. Don't get depressed. Take out a notebook. Take out a little book for yourself. Take out a journal. And I want you to write in it. And really write your most honest thoughts. I have a notebook that's called a notebook of my most dangerous thoughts. Get you a notebook as well. And really think about this. And really write down your thoughts. And try to get to the crux of what it means to be DOS in this country and what the limitations are, because when you'll be very interested when you write stuff down how it impacts you, especially when you go back and read it, and how that allows you to kind of integrate those thoughts that you have into your politics, and how you can look them up and then figure out, well, did that thing I said, is it right or is it wrong? Is it anchored in data or not? This is a lot of individual work that we're going to have to do. And a lot of people don't want to do it. And a lot of people ain't going to be able to come. That's just the way it is. There's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it. It just is what it is. So let's get to work, Breaking Brown family. Finish off your libations, though, right now. Get to bed. Get some rest. And we will be back here. I will be back here. And we'll have another political conversation as always. What's the day? We'll be back on Wednesday. So, Breaking Brown family, let's do it. Appreciate everybody for showing up. If I didn't get to your call tonight, I apologize. Hopefully, I'll get to you on Wednesday. Thanks, fam.